Do what thou will be the whole piece of law.
What do you think of when you think of vampires? I personally, being a D&D minded person, think of someone like Strahd von Zarovich, a very tortured man, a man with a myriad of problems and deep dark things that can't be solved by the passage of time. Some of you may think to vampires like Dracula, or all of these other fantasy vampires, ones that may have long lists of superpowers, or very minor lists of weaknesses, or a mix of both. Or, you could be like the vampires in Twilight and just sparkle a little bit. Oh, the sun doesn't disintegrate me. I'm not like Dio where I have to be put out in the sun and I turn to dust. It's, I'm in the sun and I sparkle a little bit because it makes me so much happier. But anyway, why do I say that the cost of being a vampire is $20? Normally, vampires in this sense, Strahd von Zarovich, Dracula, Dio Brando, I guess, if you wanted to go that far, all have a cost. The cost of becoming the vampire is sacrificing your mortality for something. Strahd sacrifices it for love, Dracula sacrifices it for love, but in a different way. Dio sacrifices it for power. And all of these are aspects of the vampire. It's a way to look at a human without the human, if that makes sense. The human without the limitations of time. What would happen if you knew that you had an unlimited time to solve your problems? How would you go about it? It's a really deep question, and it probably decides how you feel on immortality. But there are some people who don't want to bind this to a thought experiment. I don't want to say this is a religion, because they thoroughly condemn religion in it. I'll say it's a belief system, because what I'm going to talk about today is very common in occultist and esoteric literature. It's something that I want to call the power of belief, and if it has a better name, it'll be on screen. But what this power of belief is it is whatever allows you to harness your human power of belief for some gain or, in some cases, detriment. But before we get into all that, my cost of becoming a vampire, as I stand here before you, immortal, my words will live long, long, far beyond whenever I shall. But just know that the cost of this, it comes with a price. I must ask you, nay, plead and beg, as Strahd asks for Irina, I must plead with you. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please hit the little bell to turn on notifications. Please share it with a friend if you find it interesting. For I do not have an infinite time on this planet. Well, for the purposes of this roleplay, I do. I have immortality in a sense. But anyway, descending back into the tone, what do I mean by the power of belief in immortality? I want to read you a little excerpt, because today is not just one book. Today is two. And I hesitate to call them books because they're both like 40 pages each. Or it's like a total of 60 to 80 pages, which isn't really a book. It's more of a pamphlet in my opinion, but let's not mince words. It is the intro to the Temple of the Vampire information pack. It goes as such. Quote, welcome. This information pack is intended to convey essential information regarding the most unique religion in the world. Vampires are not what you think. The myths and superstitions surrounding the vampire shroud a deep and lasting truth regarding a level above the human. No faith or beliefs are welcome here. All that the temple offers is based on self-verifiable fact. You are welcome to download or share this information pack as long as nothing is altered, edited, or changed in any manner. Additional information can also be found at the temple website, www.vampiretemple.com. Now, I thought the little bit about no alteration is what kind of got me into this, and they self-describe as a religion, so I guess I will no longer call it a belief system, and instead I will call it a religion. But they establish something very quickly, because I assume you're not going to read this, although you could. The links are in the description because they require me to properly credit them as long as I use their stuff, so if you ever wanted to become a vampire, if any of this sounds interesting, click the link in the description. I'm gonna make no statement on it. If you want to, go for it. If you don't, don't. Because that's effectively what they're going to teach you throughout this book. First of all, they establish a bit of a pattern. The vampire has two sides. Now, when I talk about the vampire, they're referring to you, the reader. So when I say the vampire, put yourself in the vampire's shoes. You are the vampire. We're gonna say you're Strahd, effectively. You get infinite amount of time. And the day and night dichotomy is something that you need to understand because they're going to reference it a lot. The day is what we would consider socially acceptable, or based on science, or based on acceptable beliefs. Because the first bit of the book is talking about the Dayside and the nightside vampire. The Dayside vampire from the book is a transhumanist. They are purely focused on the material, live life with a no-nonsense perspective. And this is your corporate CEOs. This is the person at work who knows that they are correct above everyone else, calls everyone else an idiot. Only they know what's going on. They're smart with money. They invest all their things. They seek wealth and power and the ability to not just survive, but thrive. Also, as is typical, secure the lengthening of their life, whether that be through cryostasis or, they take a bunch of supplements because, they heard it's good for their skin or this makes your bones stronger. And the reason why I said it was a bit of a belief system rather than a religion is because this religion does not have beliefs in a traditional sense. Their entire brand is saying, just test it for yourself. Don't believe anything we tell you. In fact, all the stuff that I'm going to tell you and that they're going to tell you from the perspective of the writers of this book, they say, don't just take us at our word, go test it. And when you test it and you believe it, that is what our religion is. And it's supposed to build confidence and master your life, wealth, power, health, happiness, effectively anything that you want. Think of yourself as Dracula. You're trying to brainwash yourself into being Dracula effectively. And this is the Dayside. This is what you could probably explain to your coworkers in a very nice, thought out manner. I'm taking a bunch of steps to improve my life. I want to save money. I did some investments. I'm eating healthier. That is the vampire lifestyle. On the Dayside. The Nightside, by the way, the Dayside vampire is titled Believe Nothing, and then the vampire by night is Test Everything. What a running theme. And the Nightside is more of where you get into what they call the temple. And I want to point out at this point is that there is so much rampant capitalization of important things that I feel like it's me in first grade when I was learning how to write, and I still haven't kicked this habit, by the way. I capitalize things that I think are important, and they have this same thing, because in the first sentence, we are the authors of the Vampire Bible. That sentence, we is capitalized, authors are capitalized, and the Vampire Bible is capitalized. Also, they capitalize more things like teachings and authentic vampirism and ancient. And they just capitalize, this is our will. And the Nightside involves a lot more of the ritual things, which we're going to get into later. And I'm not going to go too deep. There's a bunch of stuff that I could go into, but I feel like just dipping my toes in, seeing if you want more. There is more if you want it. Let me know down below in the comments if you want more of this, because there is more. But they mainly say that this is where you'll build your connection with the undead gods, which we're also going to talk about later. Actually, you know what? We'll talk about it now. No, we're going to talk about it later. Cut that out! And, this is where they lay out the temple structure, the initiate being the lowest, the adept being the highest. Think about it as Scientology. The more money you pay, the more deeper you get involved in the website and the forums and the community. Although, never rely on others. This is a very Randian psychology that they're going into. They say never rely on others. But I want to talk about that. I'm kicking so many things down the road, but it's so important. And this dichotomy, going back to it, the day and night dichotomy is important. Because you can't be all this esoteric, I see the ley lines, I'm going to go into Agartha and see my ancient vampire ancestors who lived thousands of years and know all these ancient runic sigils that the Nords created hundreds of thousands of years ago, and I've mastered magic with a K. But you also can't just be corporate CEO type where you're like, I have dipped my face in water this morning and I got up at 5 in the morning to do all my stretches, yoga, calisthenics, did my podcast, ate 5 grams of kale because if I go to 6, I might risk an iron overdose. It's the mix. You gotta mix it together. And learning how to mix these things is how you move up in the ranks. Because all of these aren't, I believe these things. These are, I have tested them and know to be true. So whenever we're talking about things that these people believe, it's not a belief. This is true. This is like an immutable fact of the universe. Like water is wet. Fight me on that. It's an immutable fact of the universe. So if you hear someone say, yes, I need to harvest more psychic energy because in a second, 1 second, I'll get into it in a second. I need to harvest more psychic energy because I'm running very low and I feel very withered. That's not like a belief. That is an ingrained fact of their entire belief system, religion. And this blending is called the Twilight. We is also capitalized. Wow, what a great idea. They also go in on vampire origins, which they, as all religions, remember when I did astronism, videos up there, when I did astronism, they said, oh, this religion's been there since the beginning of time because people have been worshipping planets since the beginning of however long. They effectively say the same thing about vampires, where all the ancient gods were just vampires in some way or another. Basically anyone that you can subscribe to. Jesus was a vampire. But they mainly talk about a lot of the ancient ones, like Enki, you know, that guy from Fear and Hunger. Yeah, he's also a godly name. Wow, what a big surprise. Or Quetzalcoatl. And they had this elixir of life, you know, in the Nordic mythology. There's a bunch of, you know, they don't just get to stay alive forever. It's, oh, I gotta eat a golden apple every so often to maintain my immortality. And how gods in ancient Egypt would go and seek out their life forces. And then they kind of go into like, oh, vampires aren't real, but they're also kind of real because, once again, you know, it's not like the beast you know, it's our blend between the esoteric magic with a K and the daytime corporate CEO health nut. These people, like, it's just these people in the night, these night stalkers, you know, highwaymen who would rob people were the early vampires. And now this is the temple where we carry on their belief system. And it's so elitist. I normally don't care because a lot of religion is elitist to some degree. Or any belief system. Or just like, you've been in a job, you know, you ever talk to the guy who's been on the job for 20 years and you're like, oh, like you tell him about something that your coworker did and he's like, I would have done it this way because we've been doing this right and all these people learned it wrong. And, you know, with knowledge comes elitism, so I kind of understand. And their thing is, we need to test everything. We need to verify that our beliefs are not beliefs, but immutable universal facts. And I want to lay that out in the Vampire Creed because they have a little oath, I suppose, which, if you read it, would seem like Ayn Rand wrote something down. Hold on, I gotta look it up. It's like the saying that John Galt says. Oh boy, where the hell is it? Oh yeah, here it is. It gives the same energy as the John Galt quote, I swear by my life and my love of it that I will never live for the sake of another man, nor ask another man to live for mine. It's that exact same energy. So, I will read it to you in its entirety. Quote, The Vampire's Creed. I am a vampire. I worship my ego and I worship my life, for I am the only God that is. I am proud that I am a predatory animal, and I honor my animal instincts. I exalt my rational mind and hold no belief that is in defiance of reason. I recognize the difference between the worlds of truth and fantasy. I acknowledge the fact that survival is the highest law. I acknowledge the powers of darkness to be hidden natural laws through which I work my magic. I know that my beliefs in ritual are fantasy, but the magic is real, and I respect and acknowledge the results of my magic. I realize there is no heaven, as there is no hell, as I view death as the destroyer of life. Therefore, I will make the most of my life here and now. I am a vampire. Bow down before me. So, due to an egregious editing error on my part, I have accidentally deleted the second half of the original recording of this video. So, I'm going to record the second half with a little more rage, because I said some pretty good stuff in there, but I feel like I could do a second good take. And this fits really well with how I want to transition, because up until now it's been relatively tonally consistent, right? You've kind of said like, oh yeah, well they want to do this nightside, dayside dichotomy. They want to have all this esoteric magic blended with their nice corporate style, new age movement type stuff. And now they come out with the corporate CEO stuff and say, all right, now you gotta buy the Bible. You can buy it for like $20 to $60, by the way, if you're not a member. We'll get into that in a second. But they say, if you are so drawn to our temple, you may purchase an authorized edition of the Vampire Bible. And we are the only ones who can sell the proper thing. And if you're gonna make any of the nightside stuff work for you, you're gonna have to actually buy the thing. It can't just be, oh, I pirated it off of some sketchy website or got it from the Library of Solomon. Can't do that, because with the Bible, they send you some information to get membership, and you got to abide by temple law, you You gotta be 18 years or older. You gotta pay $10 a month. They're like, oh man, we have moral life is swift and short. If you're not of the family, you'll never be able to understand us. But if you are, nothing will stop you. Besides the $20 to $60 to buy the book, get membership, $10 a month, and your photo ID. Imagine, there's the Curse of Strahd tie-in. Imagine if in Curse of Strahd, when he was confronting Sergei on the top of the castle, he was like, Sergei, we don't have to do this. And he instead he went up to Vampir's Amber Block and he said, here, Vampire, here's $20, 10-month recurse subscription and my photo ID, and he becomes a vampire to pursue Irina forever. After that, they have a really nice FAQ. All the stuff that you'd want to have, right? So, the first question, as anyone would ask, can vampirism harm human beings? Flat answer, no. And this is where you get into the... You remember the JonTron bit where he's like, psychic vampire repellent, and then he tries to find out what a psychic vampire is? It's that. Nightside vampires absorb life force. So everything radiates life force in the universe. But humans are especially concentrated. And Nightside vampires are able to absorb the psychic energy or life force of a victim. So this is where Gwyneth Paltrow's goop and psychic vampire repellent come in handy. You're like, oh man, I wish I had some goop psychic vampire repellent to repel all these psychic vampires siphoning my energy in the workplace or anywhere else, because it doesn't have to be contact, as we'll see soon. But, you know, they also talk about things like acupuncture and Reiki, because we're all weebs here. We all know the Japanese version of acupuncture therapy, whatever. And they also kind of break character for a second again, and they say, on the other hand, fake vampirism is involved in the ingestion of bodily fluids like you see in the show. That'll give you prion disease. You may suffer from blood loss or nerve damage. You know, you don't want any of that. We don't endorse it because that's fake vampirism. We just endorse the real stuff that you all know, which is siphoning the psychic energy from people you enjoy being with. And then they're like, oh, why do I have to buy a book to join the temple? Another good question. If you... You know, if you send out a telepathic letter, shouldn't you, like, pay us to respond? And then it's, okay, how do I join? Okay, you buy a copy, you obey the temple law, you also pay the $10 membership and the photo ID. And one of my favorite quotes, it says, it is a common belief that the best things in life are free. Actually, the worst things in life are free. Disease, death, ignorance, pain, delusion, all of these are free. Anything of value always has a price. Yeah, like, the best things in life are free. Oh yeah, like disease. You want prion disease from drinking people's blood? You want stupidity? Can you catch stupidity from drinking someone's life force if they're, like, from West Virginia or something? Oh, man. No one will attempt to sell you on this. You're welcome to leave or proceed at any time. You know, we're all just individuals, but operating on a collective. We're like the Freemasons, but vampires, so we're cooler. Probably they get rings or magical tomes or something. And then, you know, believe nothing, test everything. Next question. Will you prove it to me? Or basically just saying, prove it. And they say, no. To do so is pointless. You know, people will just attribute it to whatever makes sense to them. You know, you have to acquire the knowledge yourself. Come on, A equals A, figure it out. Direct testing is knowledge. Do you have to die to become immortal? No. Yeah, in human religions, because remember, all these people are vampires and they're talking from the vampire point of view. In the human religions, you have to die and go to heaven. We're just immortal because we've tested. Life comes from life. And then they break... Because that's them trying to I should have been trying to re-immerse you back in the tone, but I'm gonna be honest, they do not try to re-immerse you back in the tone, because the next is the Curse of the Temple, and they said, if you pirated this book, or you got it from somewhere else, or you're trying to steal our teachings, first of all, stealing from the gods is most unwise, because none of these nightside rituals are going to work if you try and steal from the undead gods. Second of all, the unauthorized use of temple literature carries a dark curse. So, first of all, it won't work. Second of all, you'll be cursed. Third of all, if you get our book and you use the authorized literature... Honestly, I just think this is all belief well poisoning, so that even if you do pirate it, it won't work because you've internalized that it won't work, but that's just me being an armchair psychologist. You'll get a prize beyond price. Like everything in this world, a tool can be used for construction or self-destruction. Choose wisely. All of these end in choose wisely, by the way. That is the point. You know, you always have a choice. And then how can I undo the curse of the temple? You know, if I cursed myself, I got this from the Library of Solomon and I didn't buy an authorized vampire Bible copy. Just buy the book. That's how you fix it. You have to buy the book and believe that the curse is gone, because remember, you have to test everything. You can believe nothing. The intent's important. The action's critical. Even this is not a guarantee, yet it only remains the thing you can do. Pay us $60 to be cleansed from the curse. I'm not a poser. I didn't just get this from the well, I discovered it through the Library of Solomon, but I did go through the effort of buying it, and they do send you a little goofy membership card, which I'm not going to display to you humans. Order it for yourself. Vampire rules only. Maybe I'll follow the instructions if you want to follow up. Put it in the comments if you do. But they continue with a bunch of other questions, like, do we really encourage skepticism? Yes. Did you not get this? By the way, unless you're gonna be some, you know, pseudo-skeptic, we don't want those. What are the costs for joining the temple? Buy the book. You gotta get a lifetime registered membership. You get a card like a communist. It's a red card. I'm a card-carrying communist. Oh yeah, well, I'm a card-carrying vampire. What do you got to... I'm a card-carrying vampire. What do you got to say to that? And then active membership. Oh man, if you want to pay, if you don't want to buy the $60, you know, the one-time membership fee, you can also support for $10 a month and a photo ID. So I guess it's not technically, you know, $20 to $60. They've really jacked up the price on it, by the way. Since they wrote this information pack that I'm reading, and you go to their website, which isn't vampiretemple.com anymore. It's like Vampire of the Temple or something. It's something other than that. But, you know, standing at the temple gates and looking at it, it's effectively the same. You also... Also, if you get an active membership, aka you pay the $10 a month, you send them your photo ID, and you buy the book, you get access to the message board and the cabal, aka you can call a bunch of real-life vampires and talk to them in real life so you can do your rituals. Because remember, your rituals are better with more people. As long as you have more people, they're going to be more powerful. And you also get initiated into the temple effectively. You become an initiate. You can start your nightside stuff, and you don't have to be this quirky day shift guy, CEO, who's like, oh man, I ate salmon for breakfast yesterday with some kale and nice iced water from a mineral spring in Poland. And then, unlike Vampire the Masquerade, they say all members voluntarily, except because, you know, none of this is forced. They say all members voluntarily accept the 4 restrictions on their behavior. No criminal activity. You can't be a criminal. And they're like... They clarify later on, they say, oh, it's no severe crimes, like no carjacking, but like if you get a traffic ticket, you're fine. Just steal the judge's life essence. You can't drink physical blood, number 2. Number 3, no representation of the temple to the public without permission. So I'm not representing temple views. Remember, you have to test it all for yourself. Believe nothing that I say. Verify it for yourself if this sounds interesting. And then don't support any splinter groups or people who would be opposed to the temple. So I guess card-carrying vampires, I don't know. At moral gray area on watching my video about this. And it's very simple. We can just also kick out anyone who we want. So even after you pay the $60, $20 to $60, photo ID, $10 active membership subscription fee, we can still just kick you out. And then, you know, they elaborate more on temple law, basically all the stuff that I just told you, except they like to point out that they've been registered with the U.S. federal government since 1989. I'm working with people who are older than this temple, but, you know, age doesn't require it. It's more about the beliefs. And then they go into the, I don't want to call them essays. thought pieces, I guess. They go into the thought pieces. The first of which is by far the most important. It says the temple has made no effort to screen out those who lie to themselves or others. Why? Well, because you gotta, test it for yourself, and you'll know if someone's lying or you're lying to yourself. And while you're standing at the gate of the temple, this is effectively while you're reading this info packet, they say that a lot. They also say, the choice is yours a lot. And the first piece is by far the most important. They reiterate everything they've already said. Everything unique you have to prove to yourself. It doesn't matter what's visible. It doesn't matter about temple history, personalities, origins, or anything else. All that matters is what's invisible. The temple is invisible. You can only absolutely know what you personally know. I know that this has been a struggle for me, mainly talking to other people, So people say, do you trust me? And I think in my head, or I say out loud, depending on how much I trust them, like, yeah, I trust you, but, there's always that dark point, less than 0.00 infinitely repeating 1% that you're going to do something that I don't expect. And this kind of protects them from schisms, like they say in this first thought piece, which is called The Temple is Invisible. Basically what I'm trying to explain to you right now. They say schisms can only occur from liars, and knowledge does not come from ignorance, and all these other vast sayings. The temple claims are invisible. Taking life force isn't something we can show on videotape. Don't ask us to prove it. We just know it's true. Because we can experience it and know it's true through the power of belief. We've gaslit ourselves enough that we can believe it. They are loyal to reality. Reading this is just like Ayn Rand if she subscribed to magic with a K. The invisible is what the temple is all about. The temple asks you instead to verify what is invisible, to know it as true. It's the hidden and the occult. One life, one chance, the choice is yours. All of these are just the choice is yours. You stand at the gate of the temple, and the next one, in case you were turned off by the elitism in such a thing, the next one is called Misconceptions on Regarding Our Elite Behavior, which has by far one of my favorite quotes, which is, the final false impression regarding the elitist quality of our temple is the claim that we are condescending. On the contrary, the temple is more patronizing than arrogant. It's not that we're condescending, it's not that we already know everything and we're talking down to you, it's that we're trying to teach you. We are ancient, we are the land. There we go. There's the Curse of Straw tie-in. And if you want to learn, we'll teach you. We're not going to talk down to you. It's that same knowledge. Elitism comes from knowledge. It's that same repeating theme. It's not interested in serving the masses or providing anyone with a free ride. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the $20 to $60 plus 10 monthly plus photo ID to prove you're over 18. The choice is yours. And then there's one that I found more about the tragic hero, because to some degree, this is a lot of LARP, but you have to realize the LARP part and distinguish it from the things you believe and know to be true. That's Twilight. The first ritual that we're gonna get into is the calling of the undead gods, and that is the epitome of Twilight. You have to realize that the LARP is fiction, but you have to also realize the benefits that you're getting out of it are real. The tale of the tragic hero goes into more of the one who's been afflicted with vampirism. I don't want it, but I have to. I'm becoming this monster against my will. And they say something that is just so key to understanding. They say, will you allow a human to define a vampire? Basically saying, if you choose not to live forever, you won't. But what we're trying to preach to you is not a curse. If you believe it's a curse, it will be a curse. I gotta do a video on Goddard's Law of Assumption. This is just Goddard's Law of Assumption, but in a more proto-nitty-gritty form. Here you stand at the temple gates. We are watching. It's your choice. Choose wisely. Believe nothing. Test it's all self-serving. It's pointless. A lot of these, if you've read the beginning knowledge, are just flavor. They're more flavor to buy into what they're trying to sell you. Now, for the purposes of not wanting to be cursed, I don't know if I've ever had to say that in a video before. If you don't want to be cursed, I have actually bought this book, so I cannot be afflicted by the curse of the temple. I don't know if a YouTuber's ever had to say, don't watch this video or you risk being cursed. Something that's not like an SCP or something that's obviously, part of a bit. But in this belief system, I advise you to not listen to this part of the video unless you have bought the book, or else you may suffer the curse, because I'm about to not give away all the divine gain knowledge for free, but merely describe in general terms what the Bible's about, what you're getting for your $20 to $60 non-member pricing. So, if you believe you can be cursed from this, therefore testing it and therefore making it true, I would not listen to the rest of this. Remember, as the beginning goes, within lies fact and fancy, truth and metaphor, discriminate with care. Now, what's in this book? If we open the Vampire Bible, what's in it? It's another copy of the Vampire Creed and a copy of the Dragon Speaks. Now, you may be wondering, why would this be written in the most atrocious font known to man? Well, that's because it requires you to take longer to read the book, therefore thinking that you got more money out of it. Because this is horrible. This font is terrible. Why did you pick the worst Gothic font that you could find? I have to re-record this and it's still p***ing me off. And this is where we get to talk about life force and what it means to be a vampire. Because this Bible is effectively the calling of the undead gods with some extra flavor. Now, the calling of the undead gods is a ritual. Once again, not going to describe it in steps, because remember, this won't work unless you buy the book. So it would be pointless for me to explain it to you. But being able to achieve this condition requires training, and you have to make a sacrifice. But this sacrifice, remember, isn't any permanent loss of life force. This is how their vampires work. So you as a vampire have to be aware, this is me talking from their perspective, by the way. This is me trying to explain it without putting in a bunch of buts or adding stupid science to it. You as a vampire must be aware that you have a physical body and an astral body. And when you are working with both of these, when your body overlaps with another astral body, you can siphon their life force by various means. Now, as you get more powerful, you can do this. You can graduate from contact to mere penetrating their little bubble that they have, their little personal space bubble, or just being able to do it by staring into their eyes, or just draw along with their life force. As they pump out their breath, you can steal it, and then you can just steal it through their eyes. But the main thing you have to take away from this is the vampire can steal life essence, and that's what powers them. So you do not make a sacrifice of a rabbit or, a person in the room. It is all these vampires channeling their energy and pooling their power together to make a sacrifice in this ritual chamber. Now, what does the ritual chamber look like? If you think, what do I think of when I think of 90s propaganda, a satanic panic era, anti-D&D ritual room? It's exactly like that. Altar, mirror, 2 candles or 1, and you need a bunch of symbols, and you need to follow these 7 steps. You need to enter the chamber. You gotta say a little magic word in the declaration of self. You then call the 4 winds, which is you face in a bunch of different directions, southeast, north, west, say your little words. Then you make the sacrifice, aka everyone channels their life force into the person leading the ritual, who channels it through the mirror. And here are some signs that indicate the presence of the undead, in case you were wondering what it should feel like. We have a bunch of signs for you, if you're wondering what to look for or feel beforehand, in case you're wondering if this is working or not. You then, how there's in communion, there's the little metaphorical, oh, this is the body and the blood of Christ. They have the same thing going on. They have, this is the metaphorical blood, because blood drinking is banned in this religion. You drink it, you take communion with the power of the undead gods, restore your power, you say a little chant, and then leave, saying, so it is done. And the ritual ends. Now, once again, not disclosing it, because you may be cursed, but this contains the secret methods, basically how to steal life force from people if you're interested. Remember, you have to come at this from, it's the same people who say, the world is made out of wolves and sheep, and I am one of the wolves. Because it's better to be a wolf than a sheep. That is how this is written, because, there's entire sections labeled the predator of humans, and it's not like, ooh, we're drinking your blood. It's, ooh, we're stealing your life force and making you feel tired. So basically just being an energy vampire. We already have a term for that. And, they tell you the truth and the lie. Once again, can't tell you because it's cursed. Could be a curse in there. I don't want anyone coming into my comment section and saying, your video cursed me, how dare you, dislike. We will be watching. And then they talk about dreams, and it's a bunch of... It makes no sense. It makes no sense. It talks about power dynamics. There you go. It's all about power dynamics. All the dreams are power dynamics, and it's training you for when you actually have to do it. And the last one's titled The Coming Apocalypse. You know, if you're a good doomsday preacher, you gotta have a good apocalypse. That is like step number 1. Making the apocalypse is step 2. Step 1, make a religion and get some followers. Step 2, apocalypse prophecy. Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. And it's so hard to read just because of the font. I kid you not, the font is so bad. It has probably been on screen. If you can't read it at a glance, good luck reading it at all. But they do say one thing that I wholeheartedly agree with at the end of the Vampire Bible. You know what they say? Hail Tiamat! And I completely agree. Hear that, Tiamat? Ah, well, maybe I can get her some more gold soon. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for watching. This video, I would like to say, is a precursor for a deeper dive into this, but it's probably not, unless you want it. Unless you really, really want it, I can go into the other adept sorcerer Bibles and stuff like that. But remember, those who steal from the undead gods will meet with the fate of the temple's curse. But bottom line, thank you for watching. I know a lot of people don't make it this far, and plus, suffering through the mic quality of the original recording because of the noise suppression issues, which accidentally led me to deleting half of the video, and having to re-record it all was not fun. So, just because it was different doesn't mean it would have been better. I think this one was a lot better than the original recording. Thank you for watching, and just remember, don't believe anything, question everything, and hail Tiamat.